I'm at Millside for today's masterclass, a truly rural glamping experience in a quiet, picturesque spot in the Lincolnshire countryside. The luxury ensuite glamping cabins are only 10 minutes from the A1 and Grantham railway station, so just a 1-hour train journey from London and York, and it's close to many visitor attractions, including the Viking Way. Hello, my name is Rachel Cullis-Dorset, and today I'll be presenting session 1 of 3 on the power of PR. So in these sessions, you'll learn more about how to grow your business with PR. We'll learn what PR is, and in this session, we demystify public relations, what it is, what it isn't, and crucially, why it's really important for your business. We'll also look at, can you do your own PR? To most SMEs, PR is a luxury that few can afford. But what are the options and what can you do yourself? And in the third and final session, we'll look at building a marketing and communications plan and how to implement it. So why are we all here? Presumably because you want to learn how to grow your business and you're looking to learn cost-effective ways to do that, as well as to upskill and learn some new skills yourself. So what is PR? In this session, we're going to demystify public relations, what it is, what it definitely isn't, and crucially, why it's important to any business. So public relations is exactly that. It's your relationship with your public, the image that your business portrays, and all outward and inward facing communications. So that's outward facing from your social media, from your website, from your newsletters, any communication that reaches your customers, and inward looking communication, particularly communications that reaches your own staff. And that is verbal communications, written communications, and also the non-verbal. So 80% of all communications is actually non-verbal. It's incredibly important and we must never forget it. So this specifically deals with how you communicate as a business. So when we're talking about public relations and your public, we're not just talking about your customers, we're talking about your suppliers, your staff, your stakeholders, and anybody who has an association with your business. So if you're a service-based industry within the hospitality and tourism sector, your whole business success will rely on effective and positive communications. How you interact with your customer leaves them feeling good about your product or not so good. You can have the best menu and the best bedrooms in the world, but if the service doesn't match up, if the customer doesn't feel welcomed, they won't return. I'll talk a little bit more about advocacy later, but business success isn't just about getting your product right. Communications, verbal and non-verbal, is incredibly important. So public relations is very closely connected with your company vision and your company values, and that is who you are as a business, what you want to be as a business, and where you are going. Public relations is your strategy in how you communicate, and crucially, it's designed to communicate these values. And these, above all else, are why people will return to you and why they'll want to do business with you. So when you've worked out your values, next work out who your customers are and how you're going to speak to them. And these two things make up your PR strategy. So working out what your company vision and your values stands for is a really important and paramount piece of work before you start to plan your PR strategy. It's really working out your points of difference as a company, what your unique selling points are, and why customers should come back to you and do business with you. So public relations isn't any paid advertising or any paid social media. It specifically deals with advocacy, and this is third-party advocacy. So this is what people think about your business, what people say about your business, and crucially, that's important because it isn't you who is saying these things, it's third parties. So it becomes much more trustworthy and it builds much better customer loyalty. So think about everyone who's associated with your business as potential advocates, and this also includes your staff. Your staff can be your biggest advocates and it's really worth investing in them. It isn't just your customers you need to impress. The language you use with your staff, and particularly the non-verbal cues, will communicate to them what your vision and what your values are. And these vision and values will be communicated from your staff outwards. So it's really important spending some time getting this right. Your internal communications is just as important as anything external. So if we're talking about building advocacy, how do we do that? Who are our advocates? So of course they're your customers, and as we've said, they're also your staff, and it's really worth spending some time with your staff and teaching them how you want to communicate with your customers. But it's also about unpaid influencers. And by that I mean press and media, bloggers, influencers, anyone who with a platform and who is heard. And this is specifically called media relations. We're going to talk about this a little bit more later on. So just to recap on what PR strategy is, and it's a combination of what are your vision and your values, the tone of voice that you use to communicate these vision and values with your customers, and crucially what your key messages are. And these key messages are your USPs, your unique selling points, the things that make you different as a business, and the points of difference between you and your competitors. And all of that is combined with a real focus on actually defining who your customers are. Where do they hang out? How do you reach them? And these things combined make up your PR strategy. So some examples of unique selling points in the hospitality and leisure industry might be that you have an authentic Italian chef who's come all the way from Italy and brought his family recipes with him. And none of your competitors will be using those recipes because they're completely unique to his family. Perhaps you're an ice cream parlour who uses only natural ingredients and natural flavourings. Perhaps you're the closest ice cream parlour to the beach. Perhaps you're a glamping site that has the biggest hot tubs and they're available all year round to your customers. So that's the end of the first session of 3 on the power of PR. I hope you found that session interesting and useful.